A challenging or a traumatic birth can leave a deep imprint, one that extends far beyond the early postpartum weeks.
I think in hindsight, we thought we were prepared because we'd done it. I look back now and I'm like, teaching us that you can pour a cup of water into a nappy and it feels like this is not preparation for birth.
This week, I am joined by the wonderful Helen, an incredible mum of two.
And it was that feeling of being out of control, not feeling listened to.
Although Helen prepared for her first birth in all the ways that we're told we should, the experience itself was not close to what she wanted.
Yeah, it was a rough ride. It was a rough ride from the beginning. It wasn't an easy pregnancy.
We're in a place now where our standard care system can't support that deeper need for families.
Nothing that you come across in labour you should be seeing for the first time.
Before we get into this week's episode, there's something I've been waiting to tell you. I'm really excited to share that I am the resident midwife for the baby show in 2026. The next show is Friday the 6th of March to Sunday the 8th of March at XL in London. I will be on the live talk stage sponsored by Tommy Tippy on Sunday the 8th at 12 o'clock, sharing tools and techniques to support you during labour and birth. The baby show is the UK's largest and best loved pregnancy, baby and parenting event, where visitors can buy, compare, try and save from over 350 brands, as well as gaining invaluable expert advice all under one roof. And they know a thing or two about babies. Tickets can be bought online at thebabyshow.co.uk/XL, thebabyshow.co.uk/XL. And if you pop the code PTPIPPOD, PTPIPPOD, before Thursday the 5th of March, you'll get your ticket for only £16 per person, saving £12 off the on-the-door price. So please get yourself a ticket and come and see me. I'd love to meet you all and say hi. For now, back to the episode.
Hello, I'm Pip and welcome to the Midwife Pip podcast, the home of expert information and real chats on all things pregnancy, birth and beyond. A challenging or a traumatic birth can leave a deep imprint, one that extends far beyond the early postpartum weeks and can shape how the future feels too. When thoughts of another pregnancy or birth arise, they can often carry a powerful mix of emotions, memories and questions too. This week, I am joined by the wonderful Helen, an incredible mum of two who I've had the honour of supporting through my YPJ, Your Pregnancy and Postnatal Journey programme. Although Helen prepared for her first birth in all the ways that we're told we should, the experience itself was not close to what she wanted. She was determined with her second to approach things differently. She chose to reclaim her power and prepare in a new way. And today I'm so grateful to share space with her as she opens up about her journey with the hope of supporting and guiding others as they navigate birth themselves. So welcome, Helen, and thank you so much to you and Charlie, who's nicely snuggled away on you this evening, for joining us on the podcast, because I know you're juggling so much yourself at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Oh, it's so nice to have you here and to share what is such a beautiful story of yours. But before we get, I guess, to the good bit, Helen, can you take us back a few years to your first birth experience? Because I know when we first met, actually, the thoughts and feelings around your first son, Alfie's birth, were really tricky. And I remember when you were telling me about it, because I was having an Alfie, or had an Alfie at that point. I'm not quite sure how those timings aligned, but it kind of hit me even harder, I think, and gave me goosebumps, because I was like, I've got a baby Alfie and you've got a baby Alfie, and that experience that you had was just absolutely hard, like really tough for your whole family. But why for you, Helen, was that experience traumatic, and how did that kind of shape your early postnatal experience with Alfie?
Yeah, it was a rough ride. It was a rough ride from the beginning. It wasn't an easy pregnancy. There was a lot of external stress with my husband's work and things like that. So it made, I think, preparation hard. But we did, as you said, everything we thought we should do, hypnobirthing and did an antenatal course. Antenatal course was, I think in hindsight, we thought we were prepared because we'd done it. I look back now and I'm like, teaching us that you can pour a cup of water into a nappy and it feels like this is not preparation for birth. And the hypnobirthing, I think there's way more things that we probably needed to learn. That was probably our saviour in our first birth in some ways, though, not because the breathing helped, but it meant that we were on the same page in a really strong team. And that probably was the bit of the comfort that we had. I look back and that's the one positive I have, that I felt really safe with Simon. Like, I felt really like we were on the same page. But yeah, we'd done all that. Got to 39 weeks and they started to be worried about his growth. So they wanted to induce us, and I was scared because that's all I'd heard was negative stories. So we were kind of pushed towards it, and we were like, no, we'll do it next week if he hasn't come. And we had inductions and things like that to try and get him out. Sweep, sorry, to avoid the induction. And yeah, he did eventually make his way. But when we got into hospital, the contractions just seemed to disappear. And I think I was just stressed there. And then they just wanted to do loads of interventions that we didn't really want. So I was on the oxytocin drip, had my waters broken, and everything was like, oh, we're going to give you 2 hours and we're going to give... And it felt like there wasn't much choice. I remember the doctors came in and did their discussions, and I think it was like 4 or 5 doctors on the round making the discussions and literally telling the midwives what they were going to do with us and then leaving. And there was no discussion with us. So I think it felt very out of our control from early on. And then when we kind of said, well, we don't really want the drip, we want to leave it more time, and tried to express and work out an opinion. I think we were first-time parents, we were new. So we kind of didn't stand up for ourselves enough. And yeah, we ended up kind of pushed into the interventions. And it was that feeling of being out of control, not feeling listened to. And then the pathogen I had was kind of given too late because no one had checked anything. So I started pushing almost as soon as I'd had it. So I don't remember giving birth to my first son. And that was a huge disappointment because I've always wanted to give birth. Like, I know some people want to run a marathon. That was my thing. I wanted to give birth. I wanted to be a mummy. And I don't remember meeting him at all. And he was then taken away from us. And there were lots of questionable decisions on the hospital's part. And that did affect bonding. To not have had the skin-to-skin, for Simon to not have had the skin-to-skin or not have had the first breastfeed. So yeah, it really affected the bonding and our stay in hospital because he was tiny. He was like bottom of the percentiles, jaundiced and under the pathogen effect. He didn't feed very well. So we then had loads of mixed advice on feeding. Try a cup, and then the next day being told by another midwife, you're going to kill your child doing that. You're going to asphyxiate them. And so we were new parents. We were very scared. We didn't really know what to listen to. So I think that broke down our confidence a lot. I don't think many new parents have loads of confidence, so you need it built up, not broken down from the start. And yeah, he had a tongue tie that wasn't picked up. So it was just a very long, isolating slog at the beginning. And I think we'd hoped with our antenatal group, we'd have met other parents and things, and actually that support then, we didn't make a group of friends. It wasn't an instant match. So that became quite difficult, really. Quite an isolating start. And I remember my uncle, who's just been to see us after this one, he came away afterwards and said to my mum, she's just less traumatized this time. And I didn't realise that even everyone who saw us after our first baby knew I was traumatized. I remember talking about it in the evenings sometimes with my in-laws and replaying it and feeling it was just that out of controlness. It was not knowing what had happened and why it had happened, or whether I'd done something wrong, or so I think that's why it was traumatic, and it had quite a long-term impact. It's not something I'll ever forget or be at peace with, I guess.
I totally hear you. And I think what's really unfair, Helen, I know we've spoken about this before, is that you and Simon didn't do nothing. Like, you did the preparation that everyone tells you to do. You did the hypnobirthing, you practiced the breathing, you did the antenatal course, you tried to meet that local community of friends. Like, that is exactly what the kind of the world that we live in tells us. Like, if you're, to be prepared for birth, you have to tick these boxes. You did that stuff. So it's not that you did nothing, but yet you felt prepared until the journey started, and then realized that actually the preparation that you'd been sold wasn't the level of preparation that actually you needed to equip you for the journey that you had.
Yeah, and definitely hindsight, having learned everything we've done for this one,
Yeah.
we're like, oh yeah, we knew nothing the first time. Yeah, I mean, I still look at it now and I'm like, actually, if we'd been taken for a C-section with the first one, I'd have known nothing. I'd have been wheeled into a theatre having no idea what was coming, what I could or couldn't have asked for. So, I look back and I'm like, actually, we had a traumatic birth, but it could have been traumatic for many other reasons.
Yeah.
Because once we were in that situation, we didn't really know enough to kind of not be scared. And I don't think the education that we got through our course or the group or the hypnobirthing was enough information.
Absolutely. Or, specific to you and your individual needs. I think that's often something that's so missing. And I know your individual needs on this journey were different to that on your first, but I remember you, Simon, and I having a really great conversation where we unpicked all of those kind of nuances and those things that had cropped up on this journey, and made sure that you had those plans for the ifs, buts, and maybes. And you just can't do that in a group of 5 different families or 10 different families, because you don't have the time, the resource to actually go into those specifics, because you have to generalize. When you are teaching to a group of different people, you have to generalize, you have to keep things more surface level than when you can actually unpick those things that are the things that make the difference ultimately 9 times out of 10, I think.
Yeah, and I think, our birth ultimately ended up in a hospital complaint procedure. And we sat in that meeting and we both sat there and we both said, look, we fully understand you've got really overworked, overstretched members of staff, and they're here and they care. And they literally can't give the care they want to give. We're not here to necessarily slate the staff. There were bad decisions made. There were things that were wrong, but we understand why those happened. And they did say, yeah, we're so overstretched, we can't individualize care properly at the moment. And I think that was what we'd experienced, that they just, we wished we'd done more learning and more stuff to support ourselves, because they didn't necessarily have the time to give us that. We'd never seen the same midwife for a same meeting. So yeah, there wasn't that support that we probably needed.
My brand new book, Midwife Pip's Guide to a Positive Birth, is now available. So much more than a book, this is a guide that allows me to hold your hand through your birth preparation journey. With over a decade of experience and knowledge packed in, to ensure you really are empowered in the way you deserve to achieve a positive birth, regardless of the twists and turns that crop up. Make sure that you get your hands on Midwife Pip's Guide to a Positive Birth book now, and are empowered to have the birth experience that you deserve. And I think that will resonate with so many families, what you said there, Helen, in terms of we're in a place now, and I'm not saying this is right, I'm just saying this is honest. You know how honest I am with things, Helen. But we're in a place now where our standard care system can't support that deeper need for families, that preparation for the journey in a proper way. And therefore that onus is now on families. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. If we're being completely honest, there just isn't, not because there's not great people, like you say, but because there just isn't the capacity. It's no surprise for anyone to hear that things are really stretched.
and safety boxes therefore are, you know, the top priority, and rightly so. That's so important. But it means that more holistic stuff, that tailoring, that, you know, individualizing of care that makes a difference to families' experiences, there just isn't the capacity. And that now is the responsibility of the family going through pregnancy and birth, which, yeah, it's really sad. It's really sad that it's come to that. But I think if we're being honest, that is where we sit in the year of 2026. And hopefully that'll change in the future. But right now, that's kind of how it feels, I think.
Yeah, I do really agree with that. We had to fight quite hard in our second pregnancy to change that. And we did, you know, we did say, look, we've had one bad experience. We need someone to be our midwife. We need continuity.
Yeah.
And we did get it. They did, you know, we argued enough to get the care. Our midwives in the end at the birth were fantastic at individualising our care and being there for us. But you could see how stretched they were when they were here for like 3 hours after the birth, filling in paperwork.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything to do with the birth. They were just filling in paperwork.
Quick bit, right? Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It is mad, isn't it? You're so right. When you, after Alfie's experience, your first birth, and you then became pregnant again, how did that previous experience kind of affect your mindset and your emotions when you found out that you were pregnant the second time?
I mean, for a while, it nearly stopped us from having another. So it's safe to say we'd already done some work before that to reassure ourselves it could be different. Yeah. And like going through the complaint had given us some kind of healing to talk about it. And we didn't realise when we first had our baby that we could have done the reflection and got to a better place. I think it's safe to say I wasn't excited at all. I mean, it's always going to be different with your second. I remember taking the test and Simon was like next door getting our first one dressed one morning. I was like, I think it's got 2 lines. He's like, oh, does that mean we're pregnant? I was like, yeah, it does. And then we both got on with our days. And I think I was like, oh, it's not dark enough. We'll check again tomorrow. And we did. But again, I think we weren't. Then I do remember we were like, we'll go and celebrate at the weekend. We're going away on a mini break. And our son chose that night to stay awake until 11:30. So we couldn't celebrate. So we just, there was no celebration. There was no excitement. There was none of that buzz. And we knew that was an issue. So it was one of the first things we discussed with you and worked hard with YPJ to do, was build that excitement in the pregnancy. Because I really didn't have it. We did everything we could to build it, and we knew that this was going to be our last. So we videoed all the announcements to our family and things like that to try and like really embrace it and make the memories and see it as a positive thing. But I was definitely scared. Definitely just feeling I didn't want to repeat, and I knew I didn't want to repeat. And we need to learn more. We knew we needed to learn. We knew we needed to know about all the things that might happen. I was very keen to not go down the pestilent route again. And I was like, so if I can't cope this time, what do I need to do? I might need an epidural or a C-section. Neither of those was nice to me. I'm scared of the big needle impact. I went to uni with someone who'd had a morphine patch from one that had not gone great. So I was really scared of those options. But I was like, so I need to learn so that if I have one, I'm okay. Which is why we went looking for support and ended up with YPJ, because we were just very keen. We needed to I wanted to know everything. I think it made me hyper keen to know everything. And I knew we needed to learn that ourselves. You know, I remember the first pregnancy being told, oh, that's your midwife appointment when you discuss a birth plan. And that never actually happened. So I was like, no, we need to have planned it and got that knowledge ourselves. And I just kept trying to reassure myself that it's a different baby and we know we're definitely not taking pethidine. So the outcome will definitely be different. Even if it's another bad different, it'll be a different. I didn't want an epidural because I wanted to feel being able to give birth. But I was like, but at least if I have one, then I'll at least mentally remember meeting them. So I was like, there was all these compromises, and I look back now and I'm like, that's quite sad that I was like, well, I'd take a C-section just to meet my baby. yeah, I think I was at risk of being scared into options, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so valid after the experience that you'd had. And I think sometimes when you've had a negative experience, but you've done birth prep in whatever way, you kind of feel like, well, what do I do differently then? Because I did do something. So it can make it feel really great in terms of, well, what does that other path look like? But I guess the really great thing, the thing we want to celebrate, is that Charlie's birth was very different, wasn't it? It was a very different experience.
Yeah.
And I know you said there that your in-laws had said, well, she's just less traumatized this time, and everyone else has felt that difference. But how was Charlie's birth different for you and Simon?
I mean, it was polar opposite. For a start, it was a completely different place. Yeah, about halfway through, I just went like, I'm not trusting the hospital. I don't feel safe here. And we did a lot of work on that. We did go in and visit them, and we did a lot of work with, mental health support to discuss those and to get to a better place with them. So we'd been in, we'd visited, we were like, yeah, we could make this okay, we could make it our space. So we were okay with that being our backup option in theory. But yeah, I halfway through just went, Simon, I want a home birth. And he's like, all right, okay. So yeah, he was born at home, and that took quite a lot of advocating during our pregnancy to get there. But I'm so glad we did, because it's the polar opposite in terms of we just felt safe. It was the two of us for most of it, dim lighting in the pool, all those things that I'd really wanted. I mean, I think I'm totally mad now when I look back, and I'm on the video recording of the birth going, why the hell did I want to feel this? I must have been mad. But I got my ambition to have a birth that I remembered, that I feel really good about. And I do remember like the last bits of the pushing, really having that feeling of, I'm doing this, I can do this, he's coming, I can feel it. And the empowerment from that was just huge. So yeah, it was polar opposites in terms of I felt good from it. We both felt safe. It was about being a family. It was about us as the three. Yeah. I mean, he's a totally different kid as well. He was huge.
Yeah. It's amazing, Helen. It's so amazing how actually you recognize that you wanted to create a shift. You wanted to change the trajectory, and you did it. Like, my goodness, you did it with bells and whistles. And I think what's really important to highlight, because especially some of the things in the press at the moment around home birth, is that you and Simon didn't just think, right, we don't like the hospital, we don't like the system, so we're just going to birth at home and disengage. It was actually the complete opposite, wasn't it? You engaged more and more and more, so that you had various safety nets in place, so that you were confident that actually you were happy to transfer into a unit if XYZ happened. You knew what those things were. The team were happy to support that. You had plans with antibiotics and observation. You engaged so that you were felt safe and comfortable. So if you did transfer in, it wasn't going to cause a birth trauma. You knew how you were going to navigate that. Because I think there's the kind of thing, especially with some of the recent things in the press, that if we're scared of the hospital, let's just like bury our head in the sand and have birth at home instead. So I just want to highlight that for you guys, it absolutely wasn't that. It was like, let's really engage, let's really explore things, and let's really make sure that we're not just choosing a home birth because we're scared of the other option, because the other option may crop up, and we want to know how to navigate that safely and positively as well.
Yeah, we had group B strep pop up. So that meant for us the antibiotics was kind of a requirement. And even down to the end, actually, there was the point where we were like, maybe we retest privately, and then if it's a negative, we could go without them. And I just said, I'm not happy to take that risk to the baby, because it's all well and good saying we observe afterwards, but actually I'd rather have tried to prevent him getting ill than just check on him afterwards. So we did not take any risk that we felt was unnecessary at all. We knew there were risks to me in terms of my mental health going in as well. So everything was a juggle. And we worked with them to find the best antibiotics to make that possible. And that's what we did in the end. We went in, got those, and then came home. But we'd also worked with the PMAs to advocate for ourselves in terms of making a plan that was for the worst cases, in terms of, we went in for our drip of antibiotics in the birth centre, so that if it had gone suddenly quickly, we were in the right place rather than the delivery suite. We'd got a plan for how, if we did end up going in and the observations, my son, who I breastfed still, could come in and be with us for part of it. So we had that reassurance that we'd made what was a safe compromise with them, and that we'd also planned for the worst case in terms of if we have to go in. We'd got a bag ready of fun things for his stay. So we'd kind of, it wasn't that we'd just gone, right, this is what we're doing. And, I'm very glad that every time, I still remember every time they came to do their measurements, I literally froze with fear of please be okay. Because if it's not, we're going in. And we both knew that, for all we wanted to be at home. If his heartbeat had dropped at all, I remember us both being so relieved when there was no meconium. I spent about 10 weeks worrying about meconium. So, we both knew that any of those that happened, we'd be in. The baby safety was always paramount, even if it wasn't our ideal. And because we knew it was always an option, and we'd got friends who'd planned for home births and they hadn't happened because of meconium, we were like, right, so if it doesn't happen, what's our backup? And we'd planned that, and we worked with the hospital to have a backup of what was going to happen if it didn't work, so that we had that reassurance that there was a safe second choice. And probably a third and fourth choice, to be honest.
And that was the thing, wasn't it? Whatever this outcome looks like, it just has to empower you. You have to feel in control. And it has to be positive, wherever you end up birthing or whatever that might look like. Logistically, yes, we had that plan A, and yes, it worked out, and that's amazing. But I know that even if you'd had plan B, C, D, you would still have stepped away feeling empowered and in control of your decision. And that, at the end of the day, that's the thing that makes the biggest difference. That is the thing that matters the most.
Oh, yeah. I think, had we gone in, and that's what we were scared of the whole time, because it was quite a long labour at home. And I kept thinking, if we go in, what's going to happen? I'm going to stop. But I know that we'd have ended up with either epidurals or C-sections, and we knew what we were going to expect with those. We knew that if we'd gone in and that's what they wanted to do was the C-section, we'd have had, we knew enough knowledge to go, right, well, I'm going to ask Simon to be there the whole time, because that's something that would have totally been out of, I'd have lost it if I hadn't had him. So we knew what we'd have asked for had the other things happened. We'd got all the backup plans. We had the plan for, making it fun if my son had to come in and stay. So, we made sure that safety was the priority. And home birth was more about us feeling safe and trusting in my body. I had more trust, having learned everything I learned, to know that it knew what to do. To just be in our environment, allowed to do that without the interventions, was what we really wanted to try for.
I love that. And just on that trust point, Helen, I was catching up with the team about your physical postnatal recovery the other week, and we were talking about the fact that, in your words, Helen, you felt stronger in your pregnancy with the training that you'd been doing than you had done in a long time, and that's something we're obviously just continuing to build on now. But that is enormous credit to you. You really worked hard to achieve what you did with Charlie. You really did take the reins and work so hard from head to toe, with the psychological support and with that physical support, and with making sure that, all those things that worried you didn't just put them in a box. You actually opened that lid, unpicked them, went through them with a fine-tooth comb. That took grit and determination. So you absolutely should feel so proud of what you've achieved together as a family.
Yeah. Well, I sent you the pictures afterwards of me doing the squats during labour. And I was like, I would never have thought of doing that in my first labour. But, we were doing all the things to get him aligned. and that was the point. We just knew those things. Whereas last time I was on the bed and I didn't really know anything different. Whereas this time I was up, I was active, I was doing what felt right. And the only reason I was doing that was because in pregnancy I had spent ages building up how many squats I could do, how many lunges I could do, and putting that effort into it, which, preparation was hugely important to being in the best place possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in terms of the preparation or the support that you engaged in with Charlie, what do you think for you guys made that biggest difference in having that positive birth outcome versus your traumatic first experience?
I think the biggest thing we had was information, just learning everything. Like, I think it's your comment that you've made before of nothing that you come across in labour you should be seeing for the first time within, the best possible limits you've got, because obviously some things do crop up that are just so bizarre. But in terms of, if you end up having a C-section, you should have had some knowledge of what you'd expect so that you're not suddenly unknown. And I know some people don't want to, they just want to shut their eyes and just hope for the best. But for us, learning so much meant that nothing we'd have come across would have been an unknown. We had learned everything we needed to know for it to be a known thing, so that when we got in there, if they'd said, oh, we think this, we could have kind of asked them about it, talked about it properly with some knowledge. I think that was probably the biggest thing, and it meant that we could advocate better for ourselves in the run-up, in terms of, as we said, coming up with a safety plan over the Group B strep. We could actually make that plan with them, knowing that we had some knowledge and we were backed by, you and the team of support of going through it from a science perspective. We just felt very informed. And I think also having the emotional support and work that we'd done, there was a lot during pregnancy of just mental support from the team of how to enjoy the pregnancy, how to feel empowered, how to feel strong, how to recognise that, doing fitness at this many weeks pregnant was huge. I remember asking Simon, I think I might have been about 36 weeks pregnant. I was like, can you just take some pictures of me doing the gym session, one of Felicity's gym sessions, so that I've got these to look back at one day to go, do you know what, how powerful you were? You were 36 weeks pregnant doing lunges. And to build that confidence. So there was a lot of emotional, building up my resilience and building up that feeling of strength in me of I can do this. And I think that's very different to my first birth. I went into my first birth in a kind of, my health had been a weakness. So I kind of went into it thinking, I might need help. I might not be strong enough to do this. Whereas I went into this one with all the emotional support we'd done. And I know a lot of that was just self-kindness. And posting the things that I'd managed that day because I'd struggled with pregnancy. But even that had just meant that I went into it feeling strong, I could do it. So I think that made a massive difference. Mentally, I was in a much better place.
I love that. It's so true, because society loves to tell us you're pregnant, so don't do that, or slow down, or be careful of X, Y, Z. And obviously there's a place for that, with to a degree, but birth and postpartum are the biggest physical and psychological challenges we will ever endure. They are hard, it doesn't mean they're not amazing, but they're really tough, and they're massive endurance events. And you would never go into something that you knew was going to be physically and psychologically hard wanting to feel weak or incapable. So I always think that pregnancy is that time for us to relish and recognize and unleash our confidence and our strength and our capabilities, so that when that day comes and those contractions start, when whatever, however that might be, actually you feel that I've got this, I can do this. And that's so powerful, and that stays with you as well, doesn't it? You carry that into that postnatal as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was the feeling I had during the late. There were moments of doubt, obviously, when it's so long, naturally. But and also when we were at home and they had the contractions took ages to restart, and I was getting stressed about it. And the one thing I'd say is we just stuck a film on, and once we'd stuck a film on, I was distracted. It all sorted itself out. I was definitely overthinking it, but I think I remember being in those positions And I found rocking around in circles really helpful. Don't know why, but it was. And I just had that confidence and that trust that I'd done all the work. My body knew what it was doing. And that was because A, we'd got all the information, and B, we just spent so much time building up my confidence to, I'm strong, I can do this. So I think, that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Oh, Helen, you absolutely smashed it. Now, for anyone listening, Helen, who maybe they're a first-time parent or maybe they're pregnant again after a traumatic birth, what kind of advice or encouragement would you want to offer or for them to take away based on kind of your experiences?
For anyone who's had a trauma, I'd absolutely say just it can be very different. It really can be. I'm very, very, very glad we didn't stop at one. When we were scared into it at the beginning, thinking, oh, we might never have another. I'm glad we didn't let that stop us, because we've got the little family unit we wanted, and the experience has been totally different. I would say, learn everything. I had a friend afterwards who went on to have a baby, and they were like, we don't want to know anything. We don't want to learn anything about it. And I was like, okay, I mean, I would. I would recommend learning. And that's really hard because Google's not a great, Google gives too many places. But there are lots of information courses that are more, that just go and meet and have a few sessions. Courses that we did at the beginning are lovely for meeting people, but actually some informative courses about actually how birth works. I remember, I think the turning point for me deciding to have a home birth was when we'd done the biomechanics with you.
Oh, I love talking about biomechanics. Yeah.
Learning that, the baby will move and your body will feel the pressure. So you'll move instinctively to help it down. I think learning, how birth works and what other things that can happen so that when you get there, you can ask the questions. I think that brain tool of being able to advocate for yourself and ask, we asked so many questions in our pregnancy about, well, why is that okay? And why can't we do this? And we had the confidence to ask for what we wanted rather than being kind of sent down a line. I'd say learn loads, ask lots of questions, so that you feel you can advocate for yourselves. Build that confidence in your body, feel strong, feel healthy. That really helped me. I do look back, I did not enjoy pregnancy at all. I felt sick for a lot of it, but I do look at my body for what a powerful, amazing thing it did. And even now when you're postpartum, and okay, it's not the same body. I'd love it wasn't, some of the things are not my favorite right now, but I've got so much pride in what it did because I built that confidence. I'd say get communities, like get a support network, whether that's online friends, people who are in the same boat. That's made a huge difference in our, the YPJ group of just that support, that other mum who's equally struggling during pregnancy or early postpartum. I don't think anyone can fix it. No one can take away your pregnancy sickness, for example, but just knowing you're not alone in that made a big difference. And the other thing I'd say is ask to visit the hospital if you've had that previous trauma, because, if we had to go into hospital, if we'd had that second choice, we'd pictured it, we'd gone in and talked about, well, what could we bring into this space to, we'd actually gone into a labour, into the delivery suite, into the rooms that were, to me, are like, oh, I don't want to go there. We'd gone in and we talked about, well, how can we make this good? So I think those are the things I'd say. Build your confidence, learn lots, and ask for what you want. I don't think they will have the time to stop and kind of offer it and be holistic, but if you actually ask and try and get it for yourself, they are then willing to help.
I love that voice and that confidence are so intertwined, aren't they? Building that confidence so you can ask the questions and know what questions to ask and how to ask those questions is so important. And Helen, thank you so much for sharing your birth experience, because seeing that polar opposite almost, of night and day in terms of those experiences, and it's been a privilege to watch you on that journey and see that confidence, that self-acceptance, that self-love and self-worth grow. It's been amazing, and it's great to continue supporting you postpartum and seeing your fellow double boy family grow up and just absolutely thrive. I mean, Charlie has been an absolute gem and is clearly totally thriving and benefiting from how postpartum feels for you and Simon this time round.
Oh, it's hugely different. The confidence after having a positive birth. When people talked about feeling empowered, I didn't really. It was a lifelong goal. I've achieved it. I felt really strong from it. We've had a hell of a day today. But there's been moments where I'm like, yeah, but I gave birth, so I could do this. Like,
yeah, I can do anything.
I could do this. Okay, this is just a mild sickness bug, but we've got this. I think it's given me a huge boost. A huge boost.
Oh, Helen, thank you so much. And yeah, just amazing, and just so important for families to know that you take the reins. This is your journey. You get in that driving seat, and you can absolutely have that birth in whatever way that is positive and empowering for you as well. If you have listened to this birth story, enjoyed it, and feel that you are ready to really embrace and dedicate yourself to having the most informed, supported, and empowered journey, and want to see if we may be able to support you in YPJ, your pregnancy and postnatal journey, please drop me a Instagram DM at midwife_pip, or get in touch on my email, pip@midwifepip.com, and let's chat through things and see if we might be a good match for each other. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and wishing you all the best on your journey through pregnancy, birth, and beyond.